Hello, everyone. We should be live. Welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. We've commandeered the channel. We are playing without Jeff. We've kicked him to the curb. We've stolen the keys, and we are taking the Porsche out for a joyride. So we're going to see how this goes. Fortunately, we do have a master engineer and technician named Melissa to solve all of our problems for us. So thank you for doing that, Melissa. And yeah, we're gonna, like my trademark style, jump right in with our oh, okay, I'm getting my producer's talking to me. No, I'm just hearing voices. Okay, never mind. Captain's log, supplemental. We followed the Tetrion-based distress signal to an oceanic world in the Abasa system. We've made contact with an off-the-books deuterium refinery on the seventh planet, administered by a Ferengi named Lishka. She claims to have made no distress call, and I do believe her. Ferengi are known for distorting the truth, but it seems highly unlikely that this facility would have the technology to manipulate Tetrions. Regardless, the signal originated from Abasa 7 and caused substantial damage to the Intrepid. Its source must be discovered. We are panning out. We see space. We turn the camera and we are following a small Federation shuttlecraft as it begins to descend towards the oceanic planet of Abasa 7. It looks like a massive gemstone from this distance. With the way the light reflects off the oceans, and there are crystal formations, some of which are almost as big as a continent, most of which are much, much smaller, like archipelagos and islands of that sort, but still very, very large. And we see our away team with Dr. Talas and Commander Hessel, Lieutenant Dvorggern, and they are all sitting in a shuttlecraft, and we hear Captain Shelby to Commander Hessel.
Yes, Captain.
Commander Argent has returned from his survey mission. I have assigned to transfer him to your away team. We have a request from Chief Transport Officer McCrae. He would prefer it if the shuttlecraft would stop moving so that he could transport Argent over. And then we hear McCrae himself cut in on the comms. It's just, you've got the shuttlecraft moving and you've got the Intrepid moving and the entire galaxy is moving when you think about it. It's just quite a bit of math. Fortunately, I'm a mathematical genius, but it would make it a wee bit easier.
Acknowledged. McCrae, Captain, I believe next time we have a little bit of downtime. I believe we need to do a refresher training on the finer points of transporters, which thankfully is a focus of mine. So I do believe it will be time well spent. And kind of Hessel looks around. It requested that we reduce speed.
Excellent suggestion. Shelby out. And with that, we hear the trademark wall, and then the beam shows up, and Argent appears in your shuttlecraft to meet you all as you continue down on your descent.
I don't like to speak ill of anyone in Starfleet, but that idiot has got to go.
Yes, welcome aboard, Argent. We were just discussing that McCrae and I are going to spend quite a bit of time on a refresher course on transporters after we finish with this Ferengi business.
Yo, Argent, long time.
Dr. Talas, it's good to see you again.
The shuttlecraft continues on its plotted course, and it's an easy trip. The atmosphere on this planet is breathable and supports life. There is very basic life, nothing more complex than lichen or such, but it's very much capable of supporting yourselves and the people who have built this small refinery. I say small refinery, of course. It's essentially a small settlement, and there are 1,500 people that work there, judging by your scans. So it is a sizable. It's a sizable amount of people in production, but compared to many other refineries in the quadrant, it's very, very small.
Was that 1,500 Ferengi or 1,500 mixed species?
Mixed species. Thanks. And the shuttlecraft continues. It descends through a cloudless sky, and it's a beautiful day. You're hitting the planet at just the right time, and you come up to this floating island. It's unfair to say it's floating. This thing is so big, this crystal mass, that it really doesn't move that much. But regardless, it doesn't connect to the actual planet underneath. This is a very deep ocean under it. And it is slowly carried by the tides. The refinery sits on top of it. Compared to Federation standards, it's very much independent quality. It appears to be workable. It doesn't look as if it's about to fall apart or anything like that, but you can tell that there are budgetary restrictions and things like that where they had to be more efficient with their resources. There is a landing pad for your shuttlecraft, and you're able to bring it down easily. As the shuttlecraft doors open, you find that you're greeted by a security team. There are 6 individuals, all dressed in various not uniforms, but clothing that's all very similar, as if it's made by the same manufacturer. There's still a little bit of flair for each individual, however they want to dress for their style. But you can tell that they're security because they're all wearing a disruptor pistol. And there is one of them who stands at the lead. He's an Iridian. He's got a very wrinkled face. He's got a indentation in his skin that goes from all the way down his skull down to the tip of his nose. And he's the one who steps forward and introduces himself. My name is Maul. I am the chief of operations for the refinery. I helped found it with Lishka. And I'm here to escort you to your dinner. It is a pleasure. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Nice to make your acquaintance, and Hessel will introduce everyone else in the crew.
And he will nod and make eye contact with each of you. He doesn't reach out to shake hands or anything like that. You don't get the sense that he's being disrespectful or anything like that, but just that this is it's one more inconvenience for a chief of operations managing an independent facility like this. He's probably got a lot to do. There's probably a little bit of a red flag for most of you as well. You would know that Iridians are a very populous species across the quadrant, but they're known for being smugglers and information brokers. Not necessarily, he's an individual, so he's not immediately a criminal, but their species do tend to gravitate towards the gray areas of Federation law. So it does also seem that there could be some sort of bias just from the fact that you're wearing Federation uniforms. Well, if you would just follow me then. And he continues, he turns around and then leads you into this refinery. Most of this pathway is following grates and walkways and things like that, and it's open air. The weather is nice right now. If it was poor weather, as an ocean planet possibly could have, you could imagine the storms being quite brutal. It would make this walk rather unpleasant, as there would not be much protection. It's a winding, circuitous path. You're able to go through the outskirts before you're able to really get to the center of the refinery. And you pass through a lot of living areas, most of which they seem to be like storage containers that are stacked on top of each other with makeshift ladders and stairways that are built. Not necessarily ramshackle, but definitely like prefabricated and just easy to build for this refinery. You're able to stack them a lot more to make more convenient housing very, very quickly, as if this refinery was put up in a rush. As you continue through here, you see that there's a lot of people coming and going, all species, all major species in the Federation are represented here. Usually it's the species that tend to be on the outskirts of the Federation that aren't as directly involved in the politics. But occasionally you do see someone that surprises you. Like you'll see a Vulcan here and there, and things like that. He continues following you and he begins telling you the details of this refinery. We have 1,500 persons, well, more than, working here. Most of which are technicians, engineers, mechanics, and such that operate the core refinery machinery. But it's deuterium, so it does require a small cadre of scientists and then, of course, operations to manage the personnel. We have a decent sized security force, as you can see, both for internal and external reasons. Facility like this could become a target for many. It's very easy for much larger faction to it's a tempting target to take out some competition. Upstarts like us, they don't appreciate the waves. And then, of course, 1,500 people, there are bound to be, yes.
Speaking of the like totally gnarly waves, this you got any storms with good turf in here?
Yes, storms that will kill you if you try to swim in them.
Oh, whack.
Thank you.
And then,
Thank
of
you
course,
very much.
we have internal security concerns. With 1,500 people, arguments will, of course, follow. There's diverse species and cultures here who don't always agree and see eye to eye. So much of the security's time is spent breaking up bar fights. And as he's saying this, by this point, you've reached this open air market. There's a lot of stalls with coverings and things like that. They look as if they can be packed up quickly in case a storm does come through. And then there's a lot of stalls that aren't necessarily for selling things, but it seem to be gathering points, like pop-up taverns and things like that. There's a lot of people in this market that are brushing past you. He's still speaking, but it becomes much harder to hear over the hubbub. And there's oftentimes, as you pass one of these like pop-up taverns, uh, you'll hear cheers and cries of frustration. Very likely there's some sort of gambling and drinking happening in many of these places. It's where they let off steam. As you can see, we may not run by Federation rules, but we do follow all applicable Federation laws. We are, well, I suppose once one Federation ship shows up, the bureaucrats will follow. And we've been expecting something like you all to arrive for some time. Where one cockroach goes, everyone goes, right?
Well, we've certainly received various welcomes. I will overlook that comparison and request that you continue with the tour, please and thank you.
And here we're coming to the core of the refinery. And he brings you along, and you start following this security wall. It's a rather large wall, and you can tell it's electrified. It's got all sorts of warning signs across it. And there are entrances and exits through there, but they require passcodes to get in and genetic testing as well. You can tell like biometrics to get in. He goes on, this is the core of the refinery. This is where we require more security, as we've said. It's very possible that someone would try to sabotage. So we put up the walls and make sure no one gets in. I think we should be spending more money on security personally, but Lishka believes that it's better to stay under the radar. If we hire more security, it draws more attention. Of course, we have Federation attention now anyways, don't we? Here we go. And he brings you towards one of the largest buildings outside of this fenced area. This is operations. If we just continue through here, Lishka is expecting you all. She will have a dinner set out. I trust you're hungry. He puts his hand on the door for the biometrics and it opens up. And this is the place that starts looking a little bit nicer, a little less ramshackle. You can tell that a little bit more effort was put into decorate. There aren't exposed pipes and wires here. Everything is behind panels and things like that. And the people in here tend to look a little more white collar than blue collar. They're not the people that are going in and fixing machinery. These are the people that tend to sit behind a desk or work the control panels and things like that. It's also a lot less busy in here. It's not necessarily a skeleton crew, but you can tell that they run with as much efficiency as they can based on how many people are moving through here. And he takes you down another series of winding corridors. And he points here and there and says, this is so-and-so's office. This is where we do this. This is where security is. This is where the core of operations is. And he's giving you a very basic tour, but he's not actually stopping to let you like look inside any of these rooms or anything like that. And then he brings you into this very lavish dining room. It's by far the most decorated place here. And there is a long dinner table set out with all sorts of food, the luxuries from all across the quadrant. At the end of the dinner table stands Lishka, who most of you have seen from the viewer on the Intrepid. She is a Ferengi woman that's rather short. She's got the massive earlobes, not quite as pronounced as a male Ferengi, but still very pronounced. And she stands up to greet you all. She smiles with these pointed teeth that are stained yellow. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. Of course, come, sit, join us. I've got all sorts of food and variety from anywhere you would want in the Federation. You are my treasured guests and hopefully customers, even more important. Please, sit.
Yes, thank you. And Hessel will kind of introduce everyone and she'll say, we've been experiencing hospitality on our way in. And gesturing over to our Iridian tour guide.
Yes, Vishran Mall. He's one for words, isn't he? And she gives him a smile and a nod. And Maul doesn't actually say anything, but he does take a seat at the far end of the table. So Lishka is on one end and then Maul is on the other. He's actually the co-founder of the Refinery with me. We make an excellent team together. He's an invaluable partner, and he understands the importance of splitting things 60-40.
He also made it very clear that he considers Federation interests in the area to be akin to cockroaches invading your home.
I'm sure that it was just a misunderstanding. Sometimes things don't translate well from various cultures, sayings, and phrases. As a negotiator, you'll learn these things as well. Please sit, enjoy. If there's anything else that you would prefer to eat, if there's anything to your liking, I will, of course, have our chef make it. Anything at all that you desire. And you look down and there does seem to be a decent spread. There's a few things that probably seem unappetizable to some of you, but you're also a very diverse crew, and those things that are unappetizable to some of you probably look pretty good to the others. So no matter where you're looking, there is something that seems like it'd be pretty good to eat. And of course, I have true alcohol, none of that synthahol. We have the good stuff here. Enjoy, help yourselves. Sit.
Yes. Thank you very much. Your hospitality is very, very much appreciated. And Hessel will kind of make sure that everyone is digging into the food.
And Maul sits down and he begins helping himself too. Clearly, one of the plates nearest him is something that he prefers. And he puts on a big helping there. And he seems to go pretty quiet, just happy to watch everything unfold. And Lishka is the one that really does most of the talking and drives the conversation. As you can see, everything is up to Federation code. Voluntarily, of course, as it is not required of our small, humble refinery, but we do like to keep everything legal. I'm not sure why you are here in the first place, of course.
It has little to do with your refinery operations. We're tracking a subspace anomaly, an emission of tetryon particles that originated from this planet and impacted several starships, including our own, within less than a dozen light years from this location.
Well, then it's pure coincidence, and I greet you nonetheless and hope that we can create a long, fruitful business relationship together. I'm sure the Federation has no shortage of need for our deuterium. Why can't I say that word today?
Deuterium? You want to do some deuterium?
Perhaps you did not hear, Commander Argent. We do need to do some investigation as to this emission is quite concerning. And so, first things first, of course, after the meal.
Of course, eat. And I'd love to hear more and meet you more as well. I'd love to hear all of your stories. I'm sure there are plenty.
Can you give me a breakdown of your history here and how many of your guys actually hit the waves when they're there?
We try not to hit any waves. I'm unsure what this phrase means. The ocean is rather treacherous as well, so it's better that you stay out of it if you can. As for my story, it's quite inspirational, if I do say so myself. I had an awful, awful husband, and I stole much of his latinum because I am much more capable of making a profit than he ever was. As I was able to buy my own ship and I made my way off planet, met my good friend Maul here. He, of course, had an interesting lead of deuterium. Deuterium. Why can't I say that word today?
Deuterium.
No worries.
Deuterium.
Deuterium. A planet full of resources that we could, of course, exploit and profit from. With his expert knowledge and operational capabilities and my mind for profit, we have built this entire refinery. Of course, with me negotiating through our stakeholders and investors, and him, of course, making sure that day-to-day operations run smoothly. And he just kind of nods along at this.
Oh, that's so cool. So, you totally got all the paperwork done with the Federation airspace?
Well, of course, like I said, we comply with all Federation regulations despite not needing to. So, uh, Abasa may be a system in Federation space, but if you check your records, you will find that Abasa has not actually been claimed as a Federation planet, likely due to a bureaucratic oversight, but regardless, we are allowed to operate without a permit.
That's something I would be able to know off the top of my head with Starfleet or protocol.
Yeah, I'll say with your focus, you can just know this without a skill check. It's a very gray loophole, but it is something that could have some legal standing. Likely it's not anything that would hold up in court, but there is a case that could be made.
Being toured around, was there anything that Dvorggern would have noticed that wasn't actually up to Starfleet standards or protocol, like this Ferengi
Yeah,
is
so
claiming?
this I would want a check for then.
Sure.
And I think we would call this, I would say insight or reason, and I think command makes sense here.
12 or less. Oh, I'm
And
going
you
to
can,
take
of
a
course,
momentum.
take your focus.
Yeah. And I'm going to take one momentum since we still have 3.
We'll say difficulty 1 for this too.
Oh, okay. I got 1 success and 1 20.
All right, a complication. Would you like to buy off that complication by giving me threat or suffer it now?
That's a great question.
I've got a lot of threat already, so
Good
giving me a little
luck.
bit more won't matter, will it?
I mean, Steven does forget to use the thread a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
you
the more we say that, the more we prime him to use it.
That's true.
What was that, Hazel?
No, it's just a matter of like, do we want to know the information and then pay for it later, or
You got
Yeah.
a success, so you're going to know
Yeah.
the answer no matter what.
oh,
I think it's
Complications are
okay with
fun.
the.
that's true.
Yeah, I think it's okay with the complication. That's what I was leaning toward.
All right. For a complication here, I think
I'm a
What would be a
teller,
good
so
complication?
I would come across as argumentative.
While he's arguing, he starts to choke, and someone has to do the Heimlich maneuver in him.
Is it still called the Heimlich maneuver in this time?
It's probably something different. Yeah.
Dvorggern, I
Lost
like
in
that.
translation.
But we know what it means.
I like that suggestion. Let's create a negative trait here with this complication called hostile negotiations. So as you're trying to, if you try to persuade or anything like that, it'll be at a difficulty higher. But to answer your question, you would have seen a couple things here and there that are in gray areas when it comes to code and things like that. Especially with like the housing and things like that. It's rather rudimentary. And there are spots where like if a Federation inspector came here, they would be dinged for things, but it's nothing that would actually shut down the refinery. One other thing I'll say, since you were specifically asking about things you would notice, is that Lishka is the only Ferengi you saw throughout that whole tour.
So, if I recall correctly, her initial statement was the planet's technically not claimed by the Federation due to bureaucracy, and so that's why. And I'm assuming, all right, this is outside of Dvorggern. If Federation is not profit driven and they're just driven on improving themselves or whatnot, what do they miss out on with this operation going under the radar from them?
Potentially setting up their own refinery, essentially the claim to the resources here. Because deuterium,
Deuterium, you had it.
Deuterium.
deuterium. There's an extra syllable in there, though.
Think
It's
about it like German.
deuterium.
Deuterium. I don't know what to do for
Deuterium.
Ium. Yeah.
Deuterium. I did it. Deuterium.
Yay!
Hey, there we go. Why is that so hard today? Thank you, Derek. I needed that apparently. Okay. I'm a GM. I need to run this game. So essentially, if they have a claim to the resources here, then that would stop the Federation from being able to gather those resources themselves. And deuterium is valuable for warp drives and things like that. It's a power source, essentially, kind of like a space fuel. So it is a valuable product that the Federation uses a lot of.
And the whole crew is aware of, because I believe we had oh no, I'm forgetting his name. Hold on. Danko. We had Danko's like initial hypothesis known across the crew that potentially something to do with the operation here was impacting some kind of life to the planet. Was that what we were starting off with?
He had a hypothesis that there was life on the planet other than lichen, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's right. He's working under the hypothesis that since it was some sort of because I think we concluded that it was like artificially, like the tetrons were artificially manipulated in a manner that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so his conclusion is it might be that there's some sort of life form on the planet, maybe that we don't know yet, haven't classified yet, that somehow these factors or whatever it is, these mining facilities are somehow interfering with.
So the two traits that Danko made was Abasa intelligence and unidentified life.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's
Okay,
right.
so-
It's just his theory. So it's just
Right. No,
yeah.
but Dvorggern's a weapons specialist. So, okay, so then to lean into this complication of hostile negotiations, I think what Dvorggern would say in response to the planet was never claimed by Federation government, Dvorggern would kind of say, while that might be technically true, you and I both know that this wouldn't hold up in a, what do they say, legal case in this time?
Yeah.
Okay. We both know that this wouldn't hold up in a legal case, and while there are nothing but minor infractions that aren't worth the paperwork or the time, it is problematic in the use of Starship fuel, but also our leading scientist has a theory here that there's something being impacted that sent these, and he's going to say Teflon accidentally, because this is a note I left for myself, that sent these Teflon particles out to the ships.
For Aaron's sanity, we appreciate you saying that you're doing it on purpose, because I do it unintentionally.
I put my note is make statements and references to Teflon instead of Tetrions, because he did his own research and he misheard it. But then Argent did say Tetrion, so he slipped.
Well, I'm unsure what hypotheses you may be referring to, of course, but we have our own scientists as well. Deuterium requires quite a bit of science and technical know-how. We have our own research wing, essentially.
Oh, really? And so he's been eating the whole time because he's looking for anything spicy. And if there isn't any, he would probably like turn to somebody like, "Do you have any hot sauce, maybe something like that?" And then he'd be like, with your permission, Commander Argent, I would like to speak with these science team, if that's all right."
Of course. Our facility is open to you all. Wherever you wish to go, we will, of course, take you and escort you.
I see.
All this time, Argent has been quiet, but he's been casually scanning the surface thoughts of the Iridian Maw, just to see how he's reacting to some of the things that Dvorggern said and some of the things Danko said. If he's nervous or if triggered some sort of reaction to him.
Yeah, let's get a presence check here. And I think command as well makes sense. Presence is normally what you use for your telepathic powers, right? Yeah.
That is correct.
And we're going to say difficulty 1 as well. And also, while he's doing that, let's give you props because Aaron did not ask to scan Lishka's thoughts. For those of you who aren't familiar with Star Trek, Ferengi are resistant to telepathy.
Is it the
Minds
earphones
cannot
that they
be
have?
read.
Basically, yes.
Or it's the structure of their brains. I think
Star Trek logic.
Deep Space Nine or
Something about like it's like so chaotic and
like
like
season 2 Deep
it's
Space
like it's
Nine.
hard to like they're so chaotic and strange in terms of their thought process that they're hard to read.
I did read something today about how there were so many nerve endings in their ears that the structure of their brain made them resistant.
Mhm.
So
I'm sure the logic
it's a
has
combination
changed.
of it all.
It's also interesting that they're so chaotic, but they have codes and policies that they quote ad hominem or
So
ad
many.
infinitum.
Yeah, but if you read those laws of acquisition,
they contradict themselves.
exactly.
All the
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
There are a whole bunch of rules that are meant to be changed and used, whichever one suits you best.
Naturally, okay.
So it's like
All
any
right,
normal federal government.
Or any business code.
Okay, so presence and command for me, that's 17 in total. Investigate's not a good focus. Nope. Okay, I don't think I really have a focus for this. I got a 1 and a 20. So 2 successes
Complication.
and a complication.
Okay. Do you want to give me threat or have another complication here?
I'll take another complication.
All right. You guys are making me brainstorm here. It's not as easy as
20s.
something just exploding.
Well, you think about it, Stephen. I do have a question for the general group while you do. I was trying to remember, because I think it's going to be important on this planet, but what does the Star Trek world do for deep sea diving? Because I'm pretty sure there hasn't been an episode because it would be costly to film something like that. Do we know that, Eric?
It exists because there was an episode of Next Generation after Picard. After Picard kind of got freed from the Borg, where he was contemplating taking a job on Earth, and it was going to be like underwater exploration.
Yeah.
So I know it still exists. I just don't know the details.
Yeah.
A standard Star Trek evac suit would provide the ability to operate at a pressure depth
Okay.
of
Would it
a
have,
reasonable depth.
We have, I guess,
Yeah.
an oxygen tank attached to it in theory, we think?
Well, it's no,
Well-
your EV suits have scrubbers. I mean, it's recycled air. So
right.
You
Fair enough.
very much have the capability to go to the bottom of this ocean, despite it being incredibly deep. You would just have to like create some specialized equipment, or not necessarily create, but adapt some equipment to make it more specialized.
Yes,
so if that's something
the
you wanna do, you
Intrepid,
could.
the Intrepid could probably actually go down there too,
Yeah, that's a good point.
because it's a surface to space ship. So
Shelby
It doesn't
would never
flood the
forgive
carburetor?
us.
it does not
Captain
flood the
Shelby would
carburetor.
not forgive us.
Okay. So let's say you get this success here, of course, and you're banking a momentum, which you can use to ask a question or put it in the bank. Let's say for the complication, that after this roll, Maul sees you kind of like looking at him and watching him, and he decides mid-meal, I've got work to attend to. Lishka, I suppose you can handle our guests. And he turns and he just walks out of the room. But with the success, you will get a couple things. You were specifically trying to see if he was reacting to anything that Argent or Danko said in just the whole conversation.
Specifically, if he triggered off of anything about when we were talking about a local unidentified life form, have they thought that something like that is a possibility? Like a silicon-based life form or something.
It's not going to be a nervous emotion that pops up, but it is we'll say it's like a bit of surprise and almost a feeling of confirmation, as if like you are confirming a suspicion he had. So you don't necessarily get any direct thoughts that say he already knew that, but you can tell that he was wondering if that was a possibility himself. Would you like to spend that momentum or bank it?
No, I'll just bank it for now, but I do telepathically push into the rest of the away team's minds and give them that information.
Okay. So you all, you hear from your producer that there is a possibility of a life form. And then Maul gets up and he leaves. Of course, Maul. Whatever you need, don't worry. He's normally much more hospitable, and especially if you return for future business, we'll make sure that you have every need provided for. Is there any need that we can provide for you? Anything that could set you more at ease while you stay here? Anything at all?
Yes, as all of your science readings and logs from prior to the creation of these mining facilities and throughout their construction and the initiation of their mining properties, I would very much like to see that.
Yo, dude, I'm totally happy to help with that too.
Yes.
Of course, I would be happy to provide anything that's not a trade secret, of course. I have to protect my profits.
Oh, your particular mining techniques is entirely at your discretion, but considering that this planet is within Federation space, any information about the actual planet itself, well, that does seem to be within our purview. And since the potential of minerals or life forms of the planet are then within our purview, then I think we should be able to see it without it being deemed a trade secret, if I understand the laws of acquisition correctly.
I can assure you that there is no life form on this planet other than very basic mosses and things like mollusks.
Excellent. So you would have no problems sharing those studies with me then. Excellent.
That sounds wonderful.
Not.
Because the only reason you would potentially be worried about it is if your science studies actually showed the potential of there being a far more complex life form. That would be the only rational reason for anyone to be concerned about it, and since you are clearly a very ethical entrepreneur, you would never potentially harm such a possible life form. So I look forward to reading those.
You know what? That brings up an excellent point. I have yet to eat myself, and the rules of acquisition number 214 say you should never begin a business negotiation on an empty stomach. Perhaps we finish our meals and then we'll hammer out the details together.
But I would suggest that this is not, in fact, a business negotiation. We are not conducting business in this particular manner. We are merely trying to acquire scientific knowledge that you clearly have done if you are going to operate within Federation space. So this is really just you providing the information about the planet within our space that you should already have freely done, but for some reason neglected to do so. But I understand starting up a new business, there's many things to jump through, much paperwork and all sorts of things, and this and that. My second life itself actually was a business owner, so I fully understand. However, this is not technically business, is it?
I want to check here.
Sure.
And we are going to apply hostile negotiations. I think the base difficulty would have been 2, so we're going to bump it up to 3.
Okay.
And I think command makes sense here because this is interpersonal. I would say that reason or presence here. Maybe even daring because you're kind of pushing it.
If you'll give me reason, I'll go reason because that's my...
Yeah, let's go reason command.
Yeah.
You're trying to logically persuade, going with the bureaucracy aspect. Yeah.
I have a focus of cultural studies. I feel like that would apply. Yeah. All right. So, do we have any momentum?
We've got 3 momentum right now.
So I need a difficulty of 3. You said, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to use it all then to get 2 dice. Okay. Here we go. So reason, command. I'm looking for 15 or under. All right. So that's a 10, that's a 10, that's a 15, and that is a 13. So that is 4 successes.
Oh, well, you know what they say. I believe it's rule of acquisition number 76. Every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemy. You can have all of our data, of course, as a gesture of goodwill, and I'm sure the Federation will give us a gesture of goodwill in return in the future.
Of course. We are very, very, very generous, after all, with our friends, and clearly we are friends. So I would like to create a trait because I spent momentum, so I would have gotten a bonus momentum because I had 4 successes, and then
you earned 1, so you got 2 to spend,
so I get
create
2.
a trait.
So I like to create a trait that, something with I want to be able to say I have endeared myself to them. Like if there's an idea of what that could be, to let you.
Let's say just Lishka ingratiation or something like that.
Yeah, something like that is fine. Yeah.
Sounds good. I like that.
Right. Because I like to think that even though I didn't say it all the time, I like to think maybe he was quoting certain laws of acquisition in the process here or there, such like that.
And
so he demonstrating respect and understanding. Yeah.
They love this verbal sparring. So you absolutely besting her would make her give you a bit more respect. I like that a lot.
Awesome.
Well, of course, it seems that our meal is about finished. If there are any further questions, I will have the information forwarded to you. Would you perhaps wish to have accommodations on my humble refinery? Again, we will provide for any need that you would wish. Is there any personal needs that I perhaps could provide?
I must say that the sausages and scallops have been absolutely delicious. You certainly know how to lay out a table for the diverse group that we are. But we are
Rule of
here
acquisition 194. It's always good business to know about new customers before they walk in the door.
That is excellent. You might want to add in a rule of acquisition that your business partners should not call potential new business partners by insects.
Oh, that's already rule acquisition 342.
Mel might need a refresher on that if you were so inclined, of course, not to tell you how to do your business.
No, of course. That's why he's the chief of operations and I handle negotiations.
I see. It's a long walk from where we landed in here. There's plenty of time for lots of insults. Luckily, he kept them to a minimum.
I'm sure he meant no insult, of course.
Yes.
So, you will be my guest then for the evening?
I believe that we might want to look over the data, of course, as Vice requested, but we may also do our own exploration of the planet.
Of the planet? Well, perhaps then I could impose just a small little task upon you. Since, as you said, the Federation will return the gesture of goodwill.
Go on.
Well, it's a slight embarrassment, and it's caused a bit of bad morale for our refinery. And of course, bad morale is bad for profits. So the Federation being here, it's fate in a way. And I've lost a submersible. Not only is that quite a hit to the bottom line, but there were several workers on that submersible that were surveying the bottom of the ocean, looking for more deuterium to excavate and refine. And well, it's never good when workers go missing. If you're surveying the planet anyways, perhaps you could find them for me.
Talas like zooms in a little bit on that, and how long ago was the ship lost, and how long is their air supply?
Oh, if there's no engineering difficulties, they will have plenty of air. It's been lost for 2 days.
How confining is the space?
Rather confining, similar to your shuttlecraft.
What was the route?
I could, of course, provide you with the plans for the area they were surveying, but we have other submersibles, and we did not find them in that sector. It's possible that they had technical difficulties, perhaps their navigation went awry, or since we're talking about alien life, perhaps a sea monster grabbed them.
Talas doesn't laugh.
That would be most unfortunate. Were there a danger on this planet where you are setting up and looking to expand a business?
Indeed, it would. And that's why I'm so thankful that your Federation ship has arrived just in time to be the heroes to save the day.
You ought to watch those under you, that you're supposed to be honor bound to take care of them.
Well, as I've said, we have sent out quite a few search and rescue missions. Losing workers is bad for morale, and it's also bad for production.
The Ferengi rule of acquisition number 211. Employees are merely rungs on the ladder of success. Don't hesitate to step on them.
And it's much easier to step on them when they're on the bottom of the ocean. But
He's laughing. He's been laughing since the sea monster thing.
But regardless, we still need the employees to keep the place running.
Does the disappearance of this submersible coincide with the Tetrion wave being emitted from the planet? What's the timeline there?
I think we are also 2 days out.
Yeah, so the Tetrion wave was about it was less than a day ago. I think it was like 6 hours or so before you were able to warp into the planet, and then another couple hours for the shuttlecraft to come down this whole time that you've been spending. The submersible was lost about 2 days ago.
Well, it does appear that we should wrap up this meal then, as there are individuals out there that may be close to their final meal if we do not make haste.
Of course,
aluminum
every
foil.
second matters. I'm so glad that you are here. That is why we, of course, brought you down to the planet so that you could assist us.
We'll need the specifics on the submersible, as well as the crew components, so we can potentially scan for individual species.
Not a problem at all,
patterns.
not a problem. And in fact, I would be willing to rent you the use of one of our submersibles if it would help you in your search, for a small fee, of course, and a deposit in case of damages.
Well, that's very interesting because our rescue fee is likely of an equivalent level to the rental fee for the submersible.
But I thought the Federation was duty-bound to provide rescues within Federation space.
Oh, I see. But the problem is that as you've already dictated and established as precedent, this planet is not technically claimed by the Federation, so there's a very murky gray area as to whether or not that applies.
You are right. Whatever your fee is, I will have it delivered to your quarters tonight.
It appears as if our fees will be a wash then. The rental fee and the rescue fee cross each other out, do they not?
Oh, no, I'm sure there's a little bit left over for you all personally.
Let's accomplish our mission first. Can we gather that information, please? I believe that the crew has made requests for several bits of data that we would like.
I understand the Federation is not one for negotiating the finer details of a contract. I'm sorry, us Ferengi, we get a little excited and passionate, especially when we know the numbers ahead of time before the services are rendered.
And Hessel's sort of getting up to kind of relocate. So if someone wants to talk numbers, they can feel free to talk numbers. She's not.
Well, we can always just take the shuttle. With the shields on maximum, it can handle any depth this ocean has got to offer.
Yeah, so basic knowledge for you all is that the shuttlecrafts are designed to operate in deep space, even in massive gravity wells like near a sun or something like that. The problem with a shuttle going into deep sea is that it would have to be a non-warp capable shuttle because it's a lot lighter without that warp engine. And it would just require some basic adjustments for propulsion to work better underwater rather than above. It would not be difficult for an engineer to do. It would just take about 2 hours of work to convert a shuttle. And then for like EV suits, you talked about that, to convert them for deep space, that would be about 2 hours of work as well to do that for all of you all, to have EV suits that are capable of handling the greatest depths in this ocean.
So are we discussing that we might prefer to travel in Federation equipment for the duration of this mission, it sounds?
Yeah, Dvorggern can just be like, well, Starfleet protocol requires subsection 2.3.7 using approved and officiated rescue technology. So we have to respectfully decline any technology that you have to offer.
Understood. And if you need the tools to make the proper adjustments to your shuttle, of course, we have them all here on planet, and I'd be happy to provide them, again, for a small fee and deposit.
This is
sorry, Dvorggern, but Talas kind of ignores the Ferengi, Lishka, and goes, I can work on it. We'll just have Bowser beam down some tools and maybe also some EV suits. But I can't chart the oceans. That's everyone's shaking their heads. And I think Hessel and Danko will have to. Yeah, I had to look up Jeff's name again.
When we don't have the Zoom name
you
up,
didn't put it on Zoom again, okay?
I was at work.
That's no excuse.
Yes, it is. It's a very good
Your
one.
background isn't even Star Trek.
I was at work.
Hey, Rule 76, no excuses, play like a champion.
That's just what the factory looks like. That's just the factory on Abasa.
Oh, we're listing too many rules. A little bit more about logistics is that you would have the tools on the shuttlecraft to be able to make a lot of adjustments, and you could absolutely have them beam down in moments. Not difficult to do there at all. Also, when it comes to actually scanning the planet, that's something that the Intrepid could do. It takes time because you're scanning an entire planet and it has to be broken up into sectors. So the way that you could make that faster is by having shuttlecraft scanning the planet as well. You already have one if you recruit other people from the ship to fly shuttlecraft. Essentially, for each shuttlecraft you have, you can have the time. So if you just have the Intrepid scan, it would take about 24 hours. If you have one shuttle, it takes about 12, and so on and so on.
Question. With our advanced sensor suite, does that change anything at all? Because I know that was part of the reason we picked the Intrepid was that it was...
So you still have to make checks to do the scans. And then the checks, of course, if you succeed, you can use momentum to make the time go faster. And the improved sensor suites can help with those checks. But it's a fail forward type thing, success with a cost. So even if you fail the check, you will be able to find them at the end of the time based on how you've prepared for it.
Okay. And this is just out of the game for me. Does this Ferengi not know that we have a fabricator that can... I'm assuming we can print money, or is that still illegal in the 25th or 4th century?
So Ferengi value a resource called latinum more than anything. And it's a very, very rare resource. And it's not something that your replicators could just create on the spot.
Okay. And that answers it for me.
Latinum, of course, is a like silvery liquid. And even just a molecule of it is very, very expensive. And normally what the Ferengi do is they take a very small portion of it and they impress it in a gold bar. So it kind of dilutes it in a way, but then you have like this gold bar currency that's about finger length. And that's what they like to jingle around and flash about. So you know the logistics of it then. How would you like to go about this?
So just really quick before we get into that, like, am I going to get the data that I want before this?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
She keeps forgetting about the data that we've asked about.
yeah, it's definitely her, not me. Yeah, so the data that you want is everything about like the surveys of the planets and things like that. And it does get forwarded to you. There's probably a messenger who brings an actual pad rather than it being sent wirelessly. And you're able to scan through it. And the messenger waits to get the pad back as well, as if they've been ordered to not let it out of their sight.
He'll turn up and he'll just be like, Bloody Mary, please. Thank you. And then they'll just kind of dismiss him.
Give me a command.
Not all Dankos have been in Starfleet, so that's how I'm thinking. Okay, command plus what?
Plus presence, I think.
Okay, what's the difficulty?
We'll say difficulty 1. This isn't that hard.
Okay, so to make sure. Okay, that's a 13 I need. I got an 8 and 11, 2 successes.
Nice.
So we'll say that this is just a human. And he is a big burly guy. You get the sense that he's security because he's also wearing a disruptor pistol. But probably not the smartest security guy. Because as you say that, he immediately turns and then he stops. I'm supposed to take the pad with me.
Oh, yes. When I am done with it, I'll make sure that you can take it with you. It will be some time, and I don't think you want to be waiting around me. I had a lot of the spicy food, you see, and it's going to be uncomfortable in small spaces because we're going down into the ocean, you see. So I'm sure you understand.
Not to let the pad out of sight. I'll go get the drink, and then I'll be back and I'll wait for it.
I see. Well done. That sounds like an excellent decision.
I can trust you, right?
Of course.
All right, I'll be right back. And then he goes and he just slowly meanders away.
I think now is the time to go.
But as from a brief overview of this, you'll learn a lot about the planet. The most interesting thing is the crystalline structures. The minerals that create the crystal islands and archipelagos that dot this ocean are actually embedded in the ocean itself. It appears that they are. It doesn't appear. All crystals are self-replicating, but the way this crystal works is that it is in the ocean, floating about in a very small form, and then it cracks and breaks, and then those little bits that splinter off grow even bigger, and then they crack and break, and they splinter off again, and the process just continues as it replicates and replicates until you get these massive islands, like the one that this refinery is built on. So this island that you're on is easily millions of years old, just from the way this process works. It's like a reverse half-life as things get bigger and bigger. You do see that there are notes questioning life form. There's nothing solid or anything like that, but the scientists have been investigating the possibility of it since the submersible disappeared. And they do have notes about the Tetrion emission as well, where it apparently damaged one of their fighters, similar to how it damaged the Intrepid. The fighter itself was completely disabled, and they had to have another fighter essentially do a rescue mission to bring it in. They're unsure of where the source was. It seems to be planet-wide, like a massive emission from the core of the planet, maybe. They're not sure. That pretty much, tells you everything that you see there. If there's anything else that comes up, I'll freely give that to you. Okay, so logistics of how you want to go about searching the planet. How would you like to do that?
Remind me how many shuttlecrafts we have.
As many as you need from the Intrepid. You have one on the planet with you.
So we can use some of our NPC hirelings. We have quite a few shuttlecrafts. If we're cutting it in half every time, so the Intrepid is 24, 1 is 12, 2 is 6, then probably we'll use 3 and cut it to 3 hours or whatever.
Yeah, easily.
That works.
All right. So you essentially have 3 shuttlecraft and the Intrepid. You all take a quarter of the planet to start scanning. Are you all on the same shuttlecraft together? Are you all captaining different shuttlecraft? It's all basic piloting. You're all capable of doing that if you would like to. Or would you rather have crew
our
from
away
the
team
Intrepid
stays together?
Yeah. Oh, well,
Okay.
I was going to say, I think I work on trying to get one of the the shuttlecrafts into a submarine state while you guys investigate.
Okay, that's absolutely something that you could do with like a 4th shuttlecraft. Not a problem. So that would just require a couple engineering rolls to see how quickly you can do it.
Sure. Engineering and
Science, actually. So to modify existing gear to operate on the bottom of the trench requires a reasoned science task with a difficulty of 1 to determine the exact pressure the resistance requires.
okay. Before I start doing these rolls, is everybody kind of okay with the shuttlecrafts, or is anybody staying with me?
So the data that I got, is that going to take a significant amount of time to like sift through, you think?
Not a significant amount, a couple hours.
Okay, and which is
it's something you could do while like on the shuttlecraft scanning.
Yeah, I wouldn't be actively like piloting, but I could be on the shuttlecraft in case like
easy enough.
So yeah, I would do that. So I would probably be with somebody else who is piloting so that I could be there in case something comes up.
All right, so that leaves Hessel, Argent, and Dvorggern.
I think the rest of us would stick together.
Okay.
So Talas, you're by yourself fixing one of the shuttlecrafts. So you can do it on the Intrepid or on the planet. That is inconsequential either way, wherever you want to do it.
Sure, I'll just do it on the planet. I'm going to, so my science and reason is 15. I don't think we have any momentum right now. We used it. What got 1?
I got one for my roll to order a Bloody Mary. So there's one more.
Also,
Nice.
you are bringing more shuttlecraft down from the Intrepid, which means that there's more crew coming down. You could absolutely use the Intrepid to assist you on this roll.
I would like
so
to
this
use
would
the
be, I think, structure engineering. Hessel, let's say you make the roll here, if you don't mind. You're looking for a 12. It's a single die.
Okay. 16 is not a 12.
Okay. So no assistance there, Talas,
Okay.
but go ahead and try anyways.
What is the difficulty level?
It's difficulty 1 for
Okay.
reason science here, and we're going to say that assist applied to both checks here.
Not a problem. Then I'm not going to use anything for this one. That is a 7 and a 13, so 2 successes.
Okay. Success, and you're banking a momentum. It's followed by
Yes.
a reason engineering task, also with a difficulty of 1. So the first one
Reason-
determined the pressure resistance required,
Mhm.
and now you're the one making the actual changes.
Okay. Reason and engineering is a 16 for me. Yeah, and the difficulty is 1 again, or?
Difficulty is 1 again. Yes.
Okay, then I will just roll these 2 dice. That is a 3 and a 12. The 3 is below my engineering for focus improvisation. No.
Improvisation makes sense here. You're adapting something. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
well
with
then that would be 3 successes. So I will bank 2 more of them.
Okay. And if you want, you can spend momentum to make it happen faster. It's your call.
I think I've got 3 hours while the crew flies around, and you said
No
about
worries.
2 hours to adapt some of this stuff. So I'm going to just leave it because I think we're going to need momentum with all the threat we gave you.
No one gave me threat today, actually. We just made some traits because you all are stingy and don't feel like sharing the wealth.
We gave you complications.
We gave you
It's even
complications.
better.
We did.
Rule of acquisition 403, no threat.
Do not freely give threat unless required.
I love it. Okay. So Talas, you spend a lot of time with an engineering crew, and you are specifically going through, you might be working on life support more than anything else with your medical background, but you're still a very capable engineer. And you're able to adjust the propulsion on the shuttlecraft. You're able to go through and make sure these EV suits are capable of handling even the deepest pressure. You know that this planet, the trenches get down to 30,000 feet, which is twice that on Terra. So it's quite a bit of pressure. And most of these EV suits are adapted for things like space, which doesn't actually have that much of a pressure differential. The vacuum of space, it doesn't require much pressure, but these EV suits are rather hardy, and they're designed for even awful planets that are just hell planets with their atmosphere and gravity and things like that. So it's not a huge leap to be able to make these things. It's more like fine tuning and things along that. So we will cut to our shuttlecraft then, as the 4 of you are on the same shuttlecraft, but we're going to make checks that consider the entire Intrepid and the other shuttlecraft as well. So let's have someone who's going to be doing the actual scanning. It's going to be Hessel, Argent, or Dvorggern on your shuttlecraft.
I think I would defer since in the story I'm going through this data. I would say I probably wouldn't do an active role unless like something very specific pops up that my expertise would be necessary. So I would defer to somebody else.
Yeah. So it's going to be reason science or insight science, and it'll be assisted by the ship's sensor science.
I
I'm not-
have a 14 for reason and science.
It's better than mine by far.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Okay.
So Dvorggern, before you roll that though, Argent, let's have you roll for the Intrepid. So you're going to be rolling sensor science, which is 13, and the Intrepid has advanced sensor suites. So I'm going to give you 2 dice instead of 1 here to assist with.
A 6 and a 7.
Okay.
Nice roll.
So that's 2 successes there. Dvorggern, you're starting off with 2 successes. As long as you get a single success, this will pass because it's difficulty 3.
And it's reason science. Okay. I'll keep the momentum.
Do you have a focus that you
is.
want to use? Do you have anything that you
Yeah.
can
Oh,
think
yeah.
of?
That is something I did want to ask about. I would assume that there is a Starfleet protocol when scanning a planet to just kind of enter into the databanks. Like a tried and true method. Start with the crust, go to the core last.
I
mean,
think
you have strategy. Like there's strategy.
I do have strategy. There is
doing-
strategy and looking at
doing
the
a
beats, the
sweep.
sweeps, and the whatever he says in that movie.
strategy tends to be more military. Starfleet protocol tends to be more bureaucracy.
You're
I
looking
don't think
for
I'm gonna-
someone who's lost. You search a grid pattern. There's
search and rescue there. I do like that argument a little bit better.
Trying
Between the two of them, go ahead, Derek.
All right. Oh, I got a 1. That's definitely under my
Did he even-
science.
You get to roll 2 dice though. So what was the other
Yeah,
one?
an 18, so that one failed.
Oh, okay.
Irrelevant.
So that's 2 successes on top of the 2 is difficulty 3 with 1 momentum banked or earned. So you're able to do this in 3 hours successfully. If you spend that momentum and 1 more from the bank, you can have that to an hour and a half.
I was just about to ask that. Do you think there's any value in having it to an hour and a half? I don't know if we're necessarily against the clock on anything on this. I haven't got any impression so
Yeah.
far.
Because Dr. Talas will take a couple of hours to do
Yeah.
the conversion of the shuttle
yeah,
and the
that's-
suits anyway. So
Yeah. No, we'll just keep the momentum.
All right. And you can also do obtain information if you want to ask questions about the sensor suite. So let me tell you the actual results first.
Sure.
You do find signals. And with your massive sensor sweep from the Intrepid and your shuttlecraft, it's probably not your shuttlecraft that got it, but I'm going to roll to see. We have 4 ships going. 1 will be the Intrepid, 2 will be you, and then the other ones will be other shuttlecraft. 1. So the Intrepid is the first one to find it, which makes sense. It has the advanced sensor suite. And the Intrepid pings the location, and your shuttlecraft immediately begins to move towards that location. Pardon me. And you detect 6 humanoid life forms. It's honestly difficult to detect them. It's a very faint signature because there's 30,000 meters of water above them. They are literally in the deepest trench on the planet. And it appears that they're at the very bottom. Their submersible would be capable of handling that depth. So that isn't necessarily a bad sign, but it's a difficult location to get through. Even with Dr. Talas adjusting the shuttlecraft for that depth, which it is capable of doing, shuttlecraft are a little bit less maneuverable under there. So it's going to be something that's a little bit more finicky to do a rescue operation, but it's definitely well within your capabilities. It's just something where it's going to require a bit more precision and control, and mistakes are a little bit more dangerous because of that depth. There is some electromagnetic interference in the region, and it appears to be originating from a cluster of these crystals under the sea, as if they're embedded on the seafloor. Yeah, we start singing together. Dancing crab comes out.
Zharg, good work locating these life signs. I must ask you though, is it again you have excellent skills in this area, but do you think it is reasonable that all of the searches and scans that had been done here would not have located them previously? Like, did you really have to do a lot of fine tuning of your search pattern to locate their life forms?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, you've gotta-
Well said.
Commander Hassler, you've got to remember that this refinery doesn't have the sensors up to the same level of sensitivity that the Intrepid does, or even our shuttles.
And also, I will say is that this location that's pinged is well outside of the area the submersible was supposed to be in.
Understood. I just
So
wanted to make sure that one of the rules of acquisition was not that if it is a little bit too difficult to gather your lost workers, that you just leave them where they are.
No, in fact, Acquisition Rule 62, the riskier the road, the greater the profit.
Well, see, this is definitely unfortunate.
You can't use all those. I need those.
Sorry, buddy.
Put the link up
I
to
too can
Discord.
Google.
Join our Discord.
So actually, I might want to send my momentum I had gotten asking. Yeah, I can get 2 questions, right?
Yes, you can. I will give you one more thing before you do those questions.
Yeah, so he would have to spend momentum to get the 2 questions, because the 2 questions thing that I do is based on a talent. I think the default is you get 1 question.
One momentum, one question.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, that's fine. There was one question I want to ask
Just
for
cheats.
sure.
The one thing I'll give you before is that the life forms all appear to be weak and slowly fading. And you did this in 3 hours, which means there is approximately 4 hours until they're likely going to be deceased.
Okay, perfect. So I do want to spend my momentum just asking, forgive my ignorance on this. Just use the tractor beam from why can't we just tractor beam the sub and pull it up? I feel like 30,000 meters is insignificant compared to space distance.
It breaks Steven's story.
Yeah.
I'm doing that. I'm the weapons officer.
A tractor beam would pull everything in the beam. So you'd be
I have
pulling up
precision
ocean
targeting,
by
though.
doing
I can
that?
make the argument that I could solely
targeting
target
the
the
ocean.
sub. No, I have precision
so-
targeting. I can separate the water molecules out. or whatever it
Tractor
is.
beam is it's a directed energy. One, you've got to have a straight line distance, so you'd have to be very precise. And 2, you would be
Vacuum of
pulling up.
space, not waves of ocean.
I'm not sure the total mass of a column of water 30,000 meters deep. I think you cause some planetary problems.
I think it's out of range too. I looked it up, and on average, so you said 30,000 meters.
30,000
right?
meters.
So we just float above the ocean.
Hang on. Tractor beam on average has like 100 kilometer range, so that's shorter than 30,000 meters, right?
Yes,
I'm American, so like my
There's
meters,
1,000 meters.
That's what I thought. I just want to make sure, but like
30 kilometers.
Yeah,
I still feel like I have an argument to be made here. If we're saying that the Intrepid's carburetor doesn't get flooded by flying in water, we fly the distance we need to into the ocean, tractor beam the sub, and just yank it out like a big fancy grabbing hook.
How about this for an answer? You have no idea what the condition of the sub is, and if you start pulling it up in a poor condition, it could result in loss of life.
It's true. Structural integrity could fail.
Dr. Talas will never forgive you.
Yeah, and then you know like the pressurization sickness and stuff if you're pulling them up too fast and all that kind of thing.
But the sub's pressurized.
Yeah, but like if it's moving up, they have to adjust.
If it's
right?
compromised.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
The real question is, why can't we teleport them?
Welcome, Raiders.
Raiders. We're playing Star Trek and being Star Trek nerds.
Oh, we're such
They're
nerds.
being
It's
Star
great.
Trek nerds.
We should actually be able to teleport them up.
We
Transport them.
There's electromagnetic
Transport
interference.
them up.
I have already said that.
Oh,
No.
okay.
But we have a
it's
quantum
definitely
physicist.
So here's
do.
the answer: is that any other ship would be capable of transporting them up, not teleporting, but transporting them up. Unfortunately, you are saddled with Bowser McRae, who is incapable of making that safely.
Next
Now
time,
you lean into
Junior
Bowser
NPCs.
We're
He's
gonna
getting
leave
trained
McRae
up.
here at the refinery. He's done.
Okay, hang on. Do we have any momentum?
Oh yeah.
We have plenty.
I would like-
momentum.
I would like to spend 2 momentum to create a trait that says Bowser McRae on shore leave.
So transporters are just down.
That is ridiculous. We are a better
No one
starship.
else.
We have more than one transporter.
According
I'm
to
sorry, I'm such a troll. It is
the
bad when I'm a GM.
according to the blueprints of this ship type, we should have about 150 people. So we're saying there's
Yeah.
only one transporter,
So he is
And
on
McRae
leave.
is that one.
and he's on leave. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's still got to actually get to wherever he's going to leave. You don't get leave till you're on a
You know-
base.
you know-
So how about this? If you spend 4 momentum now, I will say that you don't have to deal with Bowser McRae at all for the next mission.
Ooh.
I'm just gonna kill
I
him.
was going to say we make a truth that our actual
You can't kill him in Star Trek, Aaron.
our
Oh, I
actual
can.
transporter officer is on leave, and that's why we've had McCrae. And
Ooh,
so
that's
that's
good.
what we
That's good.
create
So you get a
is
new
the
one?
truth that the real one who actually knows his job has been
That's
on
long-term
leave,
planning. I
and
like
he
that.
or she is coming back after this mission.
So how do you want to get down to the bottom of this ocean?
Can we teleport into
I
their
have made a submarine for us.
You did. You spent 5 hours making.
I spent so long. Hey, not 5 hours.
3.
Yeah, it was about 3 hours. So it coincides. Shuttlecraft can move fairly quickly, especially if you probably exit the atmosphere and then move over. We can say that when you took your shuttlecraft over to that position, you actually stopped at a refinery and switched shuttlecraft to rejoin with Talas. So you are now in the modified shuttlecraft that is capable of descending there if you'd like. You know what? Just because sometimes it's time to make something explode. As your shuttlecraft, I know, Jeff, I learned from you. Who can believe that? I'm going to spend some threat. As your shuttlecraft is making its way over to that region, a sudden powerful storm begins to spring up almost out of nowhere. It's this cyclone. There were no clouds nearby, and then suddenly the atmosphere just turned dark and gray. The You look at your sensors and they're going haywire as cold air is dropping a lot faster than it should, and this massive tropical storm begins to build and build. Did we say Argent was flying?
No, we did not.
Hessel was flying?
I think it has to be Hessel because I'm doing
Hessel's-
something. Argent's not. Zharg was on the scanner, so it's got to be Hessel.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
I have Pathfinder when I'm trying to plot a course through unknown territory. I can reduce the difficulty, so that's why I'm always piloting.
Yeah, sounds good. You aren't necessarily in unknown territory, but Pathfinder just sounds awesome, and you don't get to use it much. So
I
let's go
don't
with
believe I've been here before, so I'm going to call it unknown territory. It is unknown to me.
So to navigate the storm, I need a daring con task with difficulty of 3. And if you fail, that means that you stay in the storm and the shuttlecraft is going to be taking some structural damage as these winds are becoming impressively powerful. Like there's some climate change happening on this because it's crazy.
And it happened like since we got here.
Yeah, as your shuttlecraft, it really did though. It makes no logical sense. As a pilot, you would have ideas of like basic weather patterns and how it works, and this feels like artificially generated, as if this storm was created somehow. There's no reason for the weather patterns when they were beautiful and sunny. Something has created this storm. It's the only logical answer. But give us the daring con.
Okay, so serious question. Do we have momentum?
Well,
Or do
also, we do.
Okay.
We have 4
Okay.
momentum.
Okay.
But is this
I didn't
something
spend it because I wasn't granted the thing that I wanted to do, so I put it back.
Okay, I will
Is this-
spend one of them for an extra dice.
is this something that any of us can assist on while doing our roles?
I think one person could assist, yes, as a co-pilot, if
Okay.
someone would like to. And
Well,
it's
the
still
only thing-
daring con.
The only thing I was going to say is I have precision evasion as a talent, which I know is technically like a major action for ship combat, but I'm wondering if that has any sort of tie over.
What does
carryover.
it do? I mean, you are in a ship.
It just says whenever you use the evasive action, the ship does not suffer increased difficulty for attacks normally caused by evasion.
Okay, so we're not necessarily in ship combat, so no, that wouldn't necessarily apply here.
But you can roll the help anyway.
So daring con from Dvorggern first.
1 dice.
1 die.
1 die.
That's 16. I needed a 15.
I
I
no, you
failed.
didn't. You needed an 11.
You said control con?
Daring con. There we go. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, whoops. Okay.
No worries. It was a fail either way. I just had your character sheet open because I was looking at it. The talent that you were talking about. All right. So that's a fail. Hessel, you took a momentum, so you have got 3 dice.
I do.
You need 3 successes. Pathfinder could work here.
Add more dice. Add more dice. Take more momentum.
I did, but it didn't do me much good. So I could. So the difficulty. Yeah. That's a fail. I mean, I got a 3, but I don't have any focuses that apply. And my other 2 dice were a 17 and a 19.
Determination.
But he said pathfinding counted.
So it would decrease the difficulty by 1, but it would increase the complication for the
Range.
task.
Yeah.
Pathfinding's a talent,
pathfinding's
not a focus.
A talent, not a focus. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
I thought it was a focus too.
Okay. So I could spend a determination
to re-roll because you already rolled.
Okay.
But basically, you'd be looking for a 1 then. If you only got 1 success, you need 2 successes to pass. And if you don't have a focus that applies. So, it's a 5% chance if you want to try it.
She's got 2 more dice to roll, though.
You can re-roll more than 1 die with the determination?
I think you re-roll everything you failed. I think.
Oh, determination is re-roll the pool?
I think so.
Let's look it up real quick.
Looking it up, yeah.
Okay. Jeopardy music. I don't have.
Determination spends moment of inspiration, perfect opportunity.
Re-roll any number of D20 in the dice pool.
Yep.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that.
Okay. So keeping the 3, re-rolling the 17 and the 19.
All right. You still need 2 successes.
And I rolled a 1 and a 6.
Hey, there we go. That's clutch. So that's 4, right?
That is 4.
Yep.
Awesome. Good on you. Okay, so that's a success, and you got a momentum that you can bank or spend on something if you'd like. The shuttlecraft is just being buffeted by these winds, and you're maintaining the course as best you can, but everyone is being shaken. That Star Trek where you're like being thrown out of your seats. This is about a 4 or 5 on the seismic scale. If you weren't able to maintain control here, Hessel, it'd be a 7 or an 8. Like the power of nature here is just unfathomable. But you're able to maintain control. And do you get out of the storm or do you want to go into the ocean?
We're going into the ocean, so that's what we're doing.
All right. You got the success, so I'm not going to require another roll here. It's a bumpy ride going into the waters because these waves are huge. After you get in and you get some depth, it makes it a lot easier to control as things start to slow down. There's still massive currents here that are pushing the shuttle, but it's not as violent. It is a much smoother ride when you're out of the wind and out of the top surface level of the ocean, and you begin to descend. And it's dark. You've got lights on the shuttle, and they are spread out, and you've got the viewer up so you can see outside, but it's just murky. There's nothing to light up. Occasionally you hear clinks on the hull as you bump into some of these crystalline structures, and you descend and descend.
I think we'd probably keep the shields up on the shuttle as we were going down.
Okay, yeah. So you hear a sizzle instead of a clink as it. This is Trek, so we got to make sure we're accurate. I appreciate it.
And Hessel would definitely, like, as she's doing everything she needs to do, kind of with all of this, kind of as we're going down, she would definitely be requesting that other folks on the crew be gathering some data around this storm and its sudden appearance, and any movement patterns or any of those kinds of things to make sure that we're kind of getting everything we can from this.
Yeah, I had a thought on that. Like, I was thinking, I've been going through this data a bunch. So is it possible I can do some kind of analysis now to like look for patterns of like when the mining operations began, what kind of like storms might have been happening, or what kind of like tidal changes, or any sort of things that are out of the ordinary. So is it possible to do something like that?
I think you spent enough time reading this. We went the 3 hours scanning. It's possible for you to have read the whole thing. I don't think it requires a check for that because they don't necessarily have data that strikes you as out of the ordinary. There are storms that pop up, but they're always predicted well in time through basic weather radar and things like that. So the refinery is able to hunker down and weather through it. When it comes to tides and crystals and things like that, it appears to be mostly random or along the tidal pattern that you would expect for the planet of this size with the rotation it has. There isn't anything that necessarily feels off that ties to the Tetrion or to the missing submersible.
Okay, so is there do I get the sense that this data was doctored, or there's things that's missing? Like, we put a lot of work into getting
That's
this
a good
data,
question,
and she was being very cagey about giving it to us, so it seems extraordinarily odd that there's nothing in here that could be useful to us in some fashion.
So I think what would be the most we got more raiders. Welcome to the party. We are playing Star Trek,
you.
and we are quibbling over all the Trek details as a good Trekkie does, because we're loyal fans. So lifting the GM mask for you here, the reason she was being cagey about it was twofold. Is that she wanted to protect her trade secrets, like she said. She didn't want to give away information for free. And the data confirmed that they were suspicious of life form and that the scientists have been researching that. I think it's safe to say with the Prime Directive in the Federation, she wouldn't want to acknowledge that there might be life on the planet because it could conflict with her claim along those lines. That's what I was trying to portray with that.
Okay, so we have scientific data that suggests that the scientists actually suspect that there is life on the planet.
Yes.
Okay.
They have started searching for it. They've not confirmed anything at all, but
Okay.
they have hypotheses about it, and they've started like scans in that direction.
Oh, okay, so basically their mining operations are like completely over now because I have this, and we can basically shut them down now, right?
Yeah, isn't this mission
you can
successful? Do
confirm
we
there
That's
just,
is
what it
life,
sounds like.
we call
if you
Dad
can
and have him
confirm-
come in?
Confirmation's not even necessary. Suspicion of it alone is going to warrant significant study now of
yeah,
the planet.
it's going to
bring-
cause problems.
So, okay. Just checking.
I don't have a stake in the mining operation. You can shut it down if you want.
It sounds like you have shares.
Right.
Yes, I've got Latinum being shipped to me on the side.
Rule of acquisition
You
somewhere.
would.
Something gets shared with the GM.
You know what? It's time for another explosion, you all. I'm going to spend 6 threat here.
Oh, shit.
That's
And
almost all his threat.
3 of you are going to have an effect here. And I'm going to roll for it. We're going to roll 1 through 5.
Okay, so it's Melissa and 2 other people?
Right.
I'm rolling
Yeah.
publicly. So that is Derek. We're going to do 4 now. That is Jeff. And that is Melissa. So yes, Melissa and 2 other people.
That is how it
Yeah, that is.
That's a good. That tracks. That tracks.
Yeah.
I rolled publicly. I was going by the overlay. It's all fair.
Yeah, a
It's all above
20%
board.
chance. It's fine.
He's going by
All
the
right,
overlay. But if you look at his numbers really don't
I
align
know. I
with the
don't see how
overlay.
that goes with the overlay.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Do they not?
No,
Oh
not
no,
even
Jeff,
close.
you're in the wrong place.
He's looking at Zoom.
I'm not actually in the wrong place. I'm in the correct place as well.
No, in my Zoom, I have you in the wrong place. I
Yeah.
normally put you all in the right windows for when it shows
Oh,
up.
it's Zoom
now I'm
order,
realizing-
not Twitch
Oh.
Okay.
stream order.
I try to
That's
put the
super
Zoom-
convenient. That's super convenient. That's
That makes
amazing.
sense.
Mm.
'Cause
Giving him too
Zoom
much credit
is-
to improvise that quickly, Jeff.
Oh, I don't think he improvises.
That sounds like
That's
he
why
could make
Melissa
up whatever rule he
always
wanted to
gets
make
hit.
up.
We are going by the overlay. And I roll
Who's overlay?
the actual overlay. So 5, 3, and 2. So 5 is going to be Aaron, 3 is going to be Jeff, and 2 is going to be Talas. So Melissa has avoided.
Did anybody see a
Mhm.
3? I don't actually see a result of a 3. Just saying. There's no
Well,
3.
no, because I subtracted 1. I'm going the 2.
Stephen, you can just keep going. We're just going to keep
Stephen,
emailing you.
just push through, push through.
Push through. I'm trying to make something explode. Okay.
And we're trying to rebuttal you.
So, Talas, you were the last one, which means you get the worst effect here. Aaron and Jeff, you both experience
Attacking me again, are you?
and it kind of makes sense that Talas and Argent are in on this. You both start experiencing these mild hallucinations, Donko and Argent. It's not that you're seeing people or anything like that, but things take on a blue hue. They're wavy. They're like little flashes of light. They cause headaches as well. Um, it it's nothing that stops you from being capable of doing anything, but it is very disorienting. And it increases your complication range to 4. So essentially on 17, 18, 19, or 20, that counts as a complication now for you. Talas,
Wow.
you have this sudden and powerful flashback from an event in your past. And I'm going to ask you to improv here. I'm putting you on the spot. This is a first meeting or an encounter that significantly impacted your life. It could be a first love, it could be a first contact, or maybe the person who first inspired you to enter Starfleet. What is this instance where you first met someone that just changed the trajectory of your life or your career?
Ooh, all right. This isn't going to go where you think it is going to, Stephen.
It never does with you.
So the first person that I met that caused the plague on the satellite that I grew up on, and thus causing me to go into the medical field to try to save my family, was someone local to one of the planets in the sort of the galaxy that our little satellite was just kind of rotating around. Came on and brought a disease that we had no immunity to. And it started a plague, and it started to kill our entire little system until it was eventually sort of reduced to the DNA of the virus, and we were able to sort of stop it, revert it. That's where I was able to create something that allowed the healthy organs to withstand the plague. And it caused a lot of death of a lot of people that I knew.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I really love that. And you go into this reverie, this flashback. It feels as if you're actually there. You're experiencing this moment perfectly as it is in your memory. Something this influential, it's burned into your brain. And every detail is exactly how you remember it. And you begin going through the same actions. You say the same things as your first experiencing what this virus is, you're first breaking it down, and you relive in the space of these few moments that you're having this reverie, you relive those months that transpired for this. Uh, the key moments, especially as you go through, you see a patient who passes away, and it's especially heartbreaking for you. You see when you first start to break down the genome of this virus, and you're able to rework it. You see when you're first processing the cure, and then the first time you're testing it, and the first time you see someone who is cured due to your hard work, and that caused you to enter the medical and Starfleet to prevent epidemics of this scale. And all of the emotions that come with flood over you, they overtake you, and then you find yourself coming to in this shuttlecraft next to the rest of your crew members years later. It feels as if you were moved through time in a weird way.
Oh, did anyone get something kind of whack just happened?
Yes, doctor. I think I've been compromised somehow. Something is attacking. Well, I can't say attacking. I'm suffering from
Yes, me as well.
vertigo and headaches, and
As a partial
Yes.
betazoid, am I able to have sensed a sort of I don't have telepathy, but I've got empathy. Am I able to sense a foreign emotion that was associated with what I just experienced?
Um, I would require a check for this.
I'll take
That's
it.
a presence command, I think, and it's going to be difficulty 4.
Okay. So just FYI, I've been upping my daring and lowering my presence, which means that's a 7 plus command for 2 of total 9.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's one of my worst things.
You got 4 momentum though you could use.
And I should mention
do.
before you decide to make this roll that you also have a experience increase in your complication range. It's only 2 for you though. So 19 and 20 are complications for you now.
Do you have
Okay.
determination? You could always spend it before you roll if you wanted to make a 1 and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I do. I do still have the determination, so I would be using that for a 4. And I would also be using one of the momentum to roll 3 dice. So I'd roll another 2. And let me just see. I don't know that I have any focuses that would apply here. No, okay, I can't bullshit any of those.
You can take all 3 of that momentum and get 2 extra dice.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take all 3 of the momentum. So I'm rolling 3 dice, and I use my determination. So I just have a difficulty of 2 remaining. I just need 2 successes out of these dice.
No worries, we have 1 momentum left. We had 4 total. I've been moving it down.
Okay. Shoot. So that is a 2, and an 18 and a 14, which means I only get one other additional success for a total of 3.
So that is a failure, but you
And a
just barely
complication.
avoid the complication.
I thought 18. Didn't she have 17 to 20?
She's got a complication
20.
range of 2. You
Oh.
got 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. My
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. So she is just 19, 20. You're
Mm.
17 up.
Yeah.
So she just barely avoids the complication. Unfortunately, it's not a success though. And you try to reach out for any sort of emotion, and it's blank. The emotion that you experienced reliving that crucial point of your past has just overcome you so much that it's impossible. If there was another emotion there, it's so intermingled with what you're feeling. It's so disguised by what you're feeling. You're not able to reach out and sense anything.
Commander Argent, are you able to sense anything? I can't reach anything.
Did I pick up any telepathic intrusion when this headache started?
No, you did not.
I didn't sense anything, Doctor, but with half of us medically compromised at this point, we're going to abort this rescue mission, notify the refinery where their personnel are, and have them dispatch their own submarines, take us up to a depth, Commander Hessel, where those of us who've been compromised can transport back to the Intrepid for medical examination.
With due respect, Commander,
What?
the people in the shuttlecraft at the bottom of this trench do not have that time.
They're going to have to make that time, Doctor, because we are compromised, and I'm not going to risk this crew saving their lives. They've got submarines; they can get there in time.
All due respect, it's possible something is trying to communicate with us, but not all species are capable of communicating on the telepathic level that the 2 of you are capable of doing. Perhaps we've triggered some sort of defense mechanism by subaquatic species, crystals or otherwise. So what Vice wants to try to do is he wants to do the equivalent of what they were doing, but he's trying to instead think of this in terms of like a xenobiological kind of like first contact event, and trying to figure out like this all seems far too coincidental. Like the storm, suddenly when we're trying to do something, us trying to go down and rescue these people, like we're being attacked in this way. Like he's still operating, since he's a scientist, under this notion that there is a species of some kind or an intelligence of some kind that's trying to react, whether it's trying to communicate like in a friendly way or whether it's just doing so aggressively because of what these miners have done. So is there something that Danko could roll here to sort of try to see if he can further his working theories that he's had, or at least maybe kind of confirm them, or maybe even try to emit some kind of signal that sort of like when you shoot out like math codes or something like that, just to demonstrate like the receptiveness of it. Like we understand you're trying to communicate.
Yeah, like trying to do like kind of assessing sort of like the subspace communications that's sort of coming in with this, and then be able to then turn something back out that's similar.
And Talas would jump out and try to support Danko on the roll as well, because she'd be going things like, this could just be first contact and not compromise. It could just be that they don't know how to talk to us. We can't turn around and lose those lives for no reason.
So let's
Agreed.
say
We will assess the extent of our damage as we move forward, but just because we sustain physical injuries doesn't mean that we stop our mission. We will continue and assess as we go.
Well, let's do the roll first and see if it's like, no, they're attacking you. Because if they're attacking you, then we're turning around probably.
Fair
Yeah. I think we listen to Argent at that point. Get the hell out. Okay. Sorry, Steven.
Hessel, you talked about subspace, and you do have sensors available to you on the shuttlecraft. So you mentioned, let's get an assist from you. Danko, you're going to be making the main role here. But I think insight science makes sense here, Hessel. And you can use your subspace as your focus.
Alrighty, trying to roll under an 11 if possible. And science is only a 1, so nope, that's a 13. Sorry, I am still trying to keep this ship moving along.
Okay. And Talas and Danko, you start pouring over the data that they've collected for you, and then the sensors that are also coming in of everything in the ocean around you. Talas, I think it makes sense for you to be using medicine insight here. And if you have a focus, you can make an argument for it.
Infectious disease? No, probably not. Okay, so sorry, it was medicine and
Insight.
Insight. Okay. Let me roll that real quick. That is a success, so +1 for Danko.
Okay. And Danko, it sounded like you were trying to reason science or insight science. Do you have a focus you'd like to?
I was thinking daring, because I'm trying to devise a solution, because I've already formulated a hypothesis. So I feel like I'm trying. If I'm trying to like return a message or something like that, I feel like that's devising a solution. Maybe is that okay?
I'm fine with daring. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I have things like cultural studies and xenobiology. I have.
You're specifically trying to determine like if there's a life form communicating. I think xenobiology could work.
Okay. Cool.
And there's still 1 momentum left.
Thank you.
And
so
it's going to be difficult here. I'm going to say difficult 4.
Yeah, that's fair. And I've got 1 from Talas. I will. All right, I'm gonna take that momentum. I'm gonna give you 2 threat since you're low, and so I want to have 4 dice. So I've already got 1. And daring. So daring. It's gonna be a 15s. I'm looking for. All right. Okay. I did. The bad news is I rolled 1 complication. The good news is that I rolled 2 8s, which are both successes, and a 5, which is a double success because it's within my science. So that's a total of 5 successes, counting Talas.
Okay, so that's you got the success and you got momentum earned. The complication, are you going to pay it off or take it now?
Considering where we're at in terms of the stream, I'm going to say go ahead and take the threat. Well, I'll buy it off at this point. We're near the end.
All right.
Okay.
Do you want to spend? Let me get your.
Well, give me the info, and then I might try to obtain information.
Yeah. Talas, let me ask you a question. Did you share what your reverie was with the crew?
She did not.
Okay. Danko, you feel this disorientation with the hallucinations, the visions. Something about it as you're looking at this pad, pouring over this data. You look up at the panel and you see everything goes blue again. and you see these swirls and eddies and these waves and ripples and waves of an ocean pouring and crashing over. It's not anything that like overtakes your vision. You're still in the shuttle. You still see everything, but there is just this tide that's pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling, and you just can't help but feel the ocean itself is what's being conveyed to you. Something it's a concept. It's not a command, it's not a word, it's just ocean.
Okay. So can I then spend a momentum? So
Absolutely.
I generated one, and then I get one of my bonus momentums from my stuff. So I'm going to spend my bonus momentum. So go ahead and take it up there, Derek, if you can. I'm going to spend my bonus momentum to obtain information, because I guess it's just for clarity. Like, I have long been suspecting like the crystals themselves are the things that are like intelligent in some way. So am I sensing an intelligence with the ocean itself? Like the actual ocean is an intelligence in of itself, whether or not it's a recognizable the way we understand intelligence, but like there's so many different types of intelligences in the universe. Like, do I recognize it as such?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that like you don't have the same telepathic abilities. This is it's almost as if this is a thought that's been implanted in your head. It's not anything that you are sensing, but it almost feels as if it's a conclusion that you don't necessarily have the data to back up, but you feel very, very confident about. And it also ties in with the data you have about the crystals and how they're very much tied to the ocean with the way they break apart and they absorb more of the ocean and then they build up again.
Mhm.
It's as if they're one.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And then I guess the second question I would have was, am I sensing like it's a network or a hive mind? Like, are these like individual thing, or is it similar to our last mission? Like, am I sensing like this is like a collective conscious in some way?
Yeah, so I think that is a great point. Your mind would go towards the eggs, the brain cells of the last mission, and you'd obviously been poring over data about that in the month or two prior or afterwards, and there was something about how those brain cells connected. You kind of compare that to a hive mind, where like there's a lot of individual things that are all controlled by the same brain. That doesn't necessarily line up here, but there is something about it that does line up, and that was that those brain cells communicated without being the part of the same organism. There was some sort of subspace communication that happened, and subspace with the tetrions that pushed through, it very much has something to do with what's going on here. It's possible that these are a life form that transcends the material space and goes into subspace.
Okay. And then I think I'm going to make that my working, like my new trait that I get for free from asking two questions, is that it's like living subspace network. I'm not really sure how to put it, but something like that. Is that accurately reflecting what you've just told me?
Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I'm going to use that as the trait that I'll, and then so he'll say, you know, his sort of in character, ocean, the ocean itself. Yes, I think it's not just the crystals; it's the entire ecosystem, but also subspace communication. And so he's basically babbling technobabble, I think, out loud, but he's also just focusing on the fact that it is living, it is communicating, but like we've almost underestimated, at least he has in his working theory, of the totality of like what this might be. And so I guess that's probably what he would say, some sort of like living subspace network of some kind that seems to be communicating or defending itself.
And are we okay saying that the shuttlecraft continues down, or are we turning around? And like in the fiction, Argent has command, but this is, an RPG, so it's a group vote essentially, and then we can weave the fiction around. So how do we feel? You are compromised. He makes a good point. The complication range is dramatic, but physically, no one is in danger yet. So what do we think?
And so I think Hessel's argument would stand that, this is no similar to we have sustained some minor injuries, but we should continue with our mission until we are proven to not be able to continue.
We have to do what we can to try to save lives when we can.
Well, Commander Hessel, based on the fact that I consider myself medically compromised, to the point that I no longer feel I can fully trust my judgment, I will relieve myself of duty and you will become mission commander. I will enter that into the command log.
Yes, and there will be continuity here. We started here with Shelby did put me in charge in your absence, so I do believe that you still have much to offer as we continue forward, and I would like to see if we can find a way to communicate back.
Well, let's just hope that what befell the crew on the submarine isn't what just started to befall us.
I do agree. I believe that Talas has done good work in getting our ship ready for this. And Zharg, do you believe that our security is, for now, still intact enough to move forward?
Well, if we're starting to understand what this life could be, then there's a chance that we could begin communicating back or devising some sort of protection in its communication or existence. So, more to be seen. I'm wary, but willing to go on.
Understood. And so Hessel had maybe slowed a bit as this discussion was happening and kind of continue downward.
Shuttle continues to descend into this darkness. You have the lights on. You see debris move up through the lights. There's nothing, though. It's an illuminated shadow. And you just continue and continue until a soft thud and mud swirls up as you reach the bottom. It clouds across the entire shuttle. Your lights almost make it even harder to see as that mud builds up and it shines. Finally, the light has something to shine upon. And we're going to end there for the night. And we will pick up next week as we discover what's at the bottom of an ocean.
Yay.
All right.
Another ocean.
Another ocean.
That's where the giant shark comes up out of it, and then Jason Statham kicks it.
Let's do some shout outs because we're coming up on time. Aaron, what do we got going on in the Garb Leg? I heard there's something very fun happening soon.
Well, tomorrow, in fact, at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, check out the Garblag YouTube channel. We will be running a Halloween special. I'm going to run the Marvel Multiverse RPG. We're going to see if Wolverine, Gambit, Iron Fist, and Nightcrawler can survive a Marvel zombie invasion.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, should be fun. And then on Thursday, at the same time, we'll be back to more Imperium Maledictum. The crew of the Inquisitorial Warband was clearing out mutants on the void ship that they're traveling on and just barely escaped being destroyed by a traitor Marine last episode. So join us for that as well.
Fantastic. As for myself, I, if I can reach it, have made a Weird West RPG. It's called Huckleberry. It's a lot of fun. It's if you like Tombstone, if you like Hellboy, you should definitely check it out. We have playthrough of it on the Lollygagger channel on the YouTube there, so you should check out the playthrough, see how it runs. If you want to play it yourself, join the Lollygagger Discord. I run sessions of it. And we just dropped a big update, 1.1. It includes an introductory scenario and some rule balances. We've got beautiful art, as Jeff is showing. It's amazing. It's the best game ever, and everyone should buy it. So, Jeff, what's going on with Lollygaggers?
Yeah, man. So this week we don't have our normal Argent game on Thursday as it's Halloween. I think we're probably gonna be doing a one shot, possibly. We're gonna talk about that in a sec. And then Friday, Aaron's back to run some Dragonbane, and we'll see. Well, I guess we're meeting somebody new, I think, in that episode. So we'll see who that is. And then on Saturday, Call of Cthulhu, where I hacked people to pieces last Saturday. It was very fun. And so we'll see how many pieces there are left. And then Monday next week, we've got Other Escape, which has become a weekly game for us now, as we just got the one Monday game, and we're doing it every week. And then we're back to this on Tuesday. There you go, man.
Fantastic. Are we rating someone?
We are indeed. I'm going to rate Ticking Time Bob Gaming because they're playing Pendragon, and I've been like peeking at Pendragon lately, so I'm just kind of curious. So we're going to go ahead and give them a raid and see how that goes. All right. That's it for everything. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for running this, Steven. It's a lot of fun. We'll see you later.
Hello.
Hey.
Bye.